All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Dreambound. In the last episode, Asher just left. So we're beginning this episode with this sort of strange mood where we're kind of dealing with his leaving, but we're also kind of settling down a little bit. Just wanted to remind you of that before we hop in, but otherwise, I don't think there's really too much to say to introduce this episode, so let's hop in and let's see what happens next in the story. The rest of the night after Asher's sudden departure could only be described as awkward. In his absence, Asher seemed to have taken all the air with him, leaving Noah breathless. He felt tense and on edge, every bit as panicked as a small, vulnerable animal. Every time he heard a car passing by outdoors, he wondered whether it might be Asher, come to apologize for the way he had treated him. But of course, it never was Asher, and even if it had been, Noah knew his older brother would never have apologized to him. Asher didn't really do apologies. I bet he didn't even apologize to Reuben after he upset him so much. It's obvious that Asher's still hung up about it, but he won't talk to him. He won't even try to make amends. I'm not sure if he's stubborn or just plain awkward. Or maybe a bit of both. When I think about it like that, maybe I'm not so dissimilar to Asher after all. Cain, noticing Noah's melancholy mood, tried to cheer him up as best he could. He whipped up a pasta dish for dinner with whatever ingredients he could scrounge in the kitchen. There wasn't much to work with, then served it. The food was good, Noah supposed, but his stomach was tied into knots, and it was difficult to appreciate it. He spent much of the mealtime pushing the food around his plate, something which made Cain frown. If we're going to do any investigating tomorrow, you'll need to get some food in you. You're as skinny as anything. I know, I'm just not hungry. Cain's eyes penetrated Noah's from across the tabletop, and Noah nodded. I thought you'd say that. That was my mother's favorite comeback, too, when we were waiting for Dad to come back home. She cooked all these fancy meals, but she hardly ever ate any of them. She just pecked at them, like a bird. The whole thing was pretty distressing, I suppose is the word. Oh. Noah frowned. He knew all about Cain's parents' divorce, but Cain hadn't mentioned it in years, and Noah, subsequently, hadn't thought of it. Maybe he'd believe that because Cain wasn't talking about it, Cain no longer cared about it. Well, of course he cares. It's his own family we're talking about here. I'm, sorry. It's alright. You didn't do anything wrong, not when it comes to my parents, at least. You are doing something wrong now, though. I am? You're not eating. I didn't slave over a hot stove for nothing, you know. I know, I appreciate it, but Noah nudged his spaghetti with his fork. It was covered in a viscous red sauce, one which looked far too vivid. It was alarmingly red, just like a bloodied knee. I know he's just an asshole and I shouldn't care, but I do. Asher won't be happy about this. About you eating? Cain tutted. I know you and your brother don't get along too well, but not even he would get mad at you for consuming food. Hopefully. It's a basic human right. Unless he wants you to starve to death? I don't know what Asher wants. Maybe he'd be happy if I died, though. It'd be one less thing for him to trouble himself with. But no, I meant Asher's the one who bought all this food. He'd be pissed when he sees we've been going through the cupboards. Well, that's his problem. He's the one who invited you here. I think he'd like to uninvite me now, though. Probably, but it's really not your fault if your brother wants to be a dick. I know it's easier said than done, but don't let it get to you. I'll try not to. Noah did try, too, but trying not to worry about Asher felt impossible. I always knew he didn't like me, but I didn't know he hated me that much. It stings. Noah didn't finish his dinner, but he ate as much of it as he could muster. Not wanting to throw the leftovers away, Kane unearthed a plastic container from one of the cupboards and scraped the food into it. He sealed it and stashed it back in the fridge. Then he and Noah began to wash and dry the dishes. It was mindless work that Noah appreciated at that moment. Just to do something with his hands and not think for a minute was the break his brain needed. When he was done, he looked around the kitchen, then the living room. Nothing looked different. In fact, he was surprised at how everything seemed to be exactly the same as when he left. For some reason, he expected everything to have changed, for all the furniture to be new or rearranged at the very least, but no. All these years, while Noah was stuck in the past, it seemed like this house was, too. Noah might have been raised here, but it had been years since he had last been back here. He felt like an outsider. It would have been hard to relax regardless, but his argument with Asher still gnawed at him. We should get some sleep soon, Noah. It's getting pretty late, and, well, I feel like tomorrow is going to be a busy day. Oh, right. Noah glanced at his phone, then nodded. It was past 11 p.m. How had it gotten so late? Well, there's a few bedrooms around, but I can just take the couch. Feels like a waste when there's so many beds. Eating his food is one thing, but sleeping in Asher's bed would feel like a step too far. And I'd really not sleep where your parents used to, even if their bed would be more comfortable than the couch. It'd feel kind of wrong. Noah understood these arguments and didn't press Kane, even if he was worried about Kane's back. It couldn't have been good for him doing all that driving, only to spend the night in such an uncomfortable condition. Maybe it would have been better if we stayed at a hotel instead. But it's too late to worry about that now. Noah did wonder, briefly, whether he shouldn't invite Kane to share his bed, but decided against it. That would have seemed too intimate. We might have shared a bed when we were teenagers, but that was a long time ago. It was a different time back then. We were different. I'm scared. Of what? Asher? He won't do shit to you while I'm here. Not Asher, of all of this. He motioned around the room, to everything. I'm scared to even go back in my room. Well, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I can come with you if just to take a look at what they changed. Oh. Right. All my old furniture is probably gone. Kane brought me some of my old stuff a while after I ran away, but I still left a lot here. I guess Mom would have gotten rid of all of it as soon as possible. Thanks. I'd appreciate that, actually. Side by side, the pair walked towards Noah's bedroom, like no time had passed at all. Noah's footfalls were heavy, and his body felt like lead. He hadn't done much other than sit in Kane's car, but he felt exhausted. His room, like the rest of the house, hadn't changed at all since he had been away. It looked like it had been preserved, in fact, in pristine condition, almost as though his parents had been waiting for him to return. Even the bed had been freshly made. Other people's parents might have turned their children's old bedrooms into storage rooms once they moved out, but not his. That's strangely sentimental. I thought my mother couldn't wait to be rid of me. Maybe she cared more than I thought. Wow, it hasn't changed a bit. There's not even a hint of dust. Kane walked ahead of Noah, his eyes passing over the various items that Noah had left behind. There wasn't a lot in here, but there wasn't a lot that Noah owned as a teenager anyway. His television still sat looking as impressive as always. Noah almost wanted to take it back home with him. It was much larger than the old box he'd found on the side of the road he used at home. Various manga and novels he'd enjoyed growing up sat next to his old computer. He ran a finger over the top of it and was surprised again to find no dust. Why would she bother keeping it clean? Well, maybe she was always hoping you'd come home. I doubt it. It was nothing but a disappointment to her. I'm not trying to excuse any of her insane actions, but, well, I would be surprised if she didn't still love you. No, I hadn't wanted to think about that. The fact that, even through the things she had put him through, the way she had treated him, she might still love him dearly. Thinking of that would only complicate how he felt about his parents' passing. If she loved me, I don't understand how she could have made me so miserable. Maybe. How can you hurt someone you love so much, though? Kane went quiet for a moment at Noah's question. Noah hadn't really expected an answer. He mostly wanted to vocalize his thoughts to the universe. A lot of people hurt the ones they love without even trying. Not that I want to justify her actions, I wouldn't dare, but, well, it's interesting that everything is so perfectly preserved. Yeah. Noah opened the drawer of his desk, looking through the various items he'd stuffed in there. Old pens, erasers, half-written notes. He almost smiled, looking at them. There was something nostalgic about discovering items that were inherently common and boring here. These were items he would use every day. He never appreciated these things. Moving them aside, he found something else. A card of some kind. McCain's voice interrupted him from across the room. Wow, would you look at that? Proof that we actually knew each other growing up. Thought I'd never see these photos again. Noah picked up the card, but put it down on his bed for the moment and joined Kane. He held a small photo album that predated their high school days. Kane flicked through the pages, smiling as he revisited years' worth of memories. The far majority of the pictures showed a much younger Noah and Kane, side by side. In one, Kane wrapped his arm around Noah's shoulder and grinned wildly at the camera, while Noah looked absolutely embarrassed to be there. In another, the two sat on swings, competing to see who could go higher. In a third, Noah's mother had taken a photo of the two having a sleepover. Noah clung tightly to Kane as they both slept with their mouths open, snoring slightly. How embarrassing. I thought it was cute. Look, even back then you depended on me. It's been so long. Do you remember when we first met? How could I not? I thought you were a flashy show-off, and I hated you. Well, I thought you were a boring introvert. Noah cracked a smile. I think we were both pretty accurate. Maybe one of us more than the other. Yeah, me. You wish. The two boys smiled. It almost felt like no time had passed at all, that these two smiling boys looking back at them still existed. Kane's eyes traveled to the bed, where the card Noah had left still sat. You kept that? Noah picked it back up. On the front was a giant red heart, badly cut out. Honestly, for a moment, Noah thought that it looked like rather than cut out, the creator had chewed the heart. He opened it up, laughing at the message within. It was a Valentine's Day card Kane had given him when they were no more than 14, as a joke. Are we sure it's a joke, or... Happy Valentine's Day, Noah. I knew no one else would give you a card, so, like the saint I am, I decided to make you one. No need to thank me. I forgot I ever gave you this. Wow. You've always been such an asshole. But a likable one. Well, yeah, that too, I guess. You were right, you know. No one else gave me a card or anything. Kane beamed. Lucky you had me to be your Valentine, huh? Yeah. Noah could feel his cheeks heating up slightly. The room suddenly felt very small and very humid. He walked over to the window and slid it open. A cool breeze from outside ruffled his hair as he faced away from Kane. It was a joke card. There's no need to get all flustered like this 10 years later. Noah cast his gaze out the large window, which looked into the house opposite. August had lived in that house once, alongside his father, Jasper. But Jasper had left, and August was not coming back. A brand new family was probably living in that house now, a new kid that walked up and down the mountain every day to go to school. It had been 5 or so years since he had come back here. A lot had probably changed. Have I changed? Noah wasn't sure about that. I might look different, but when I think about August, it still hurts. Noah stared out the window for a few moments. He wheeled the occupant of the room opposite to draw back their curtains so he could see into the room, see just how much August's old bedroom had changed. But the seconds trickled by, and the curtains in the house opposite remained stubbornly closed. As if I'll be able to wrench them open through sheer willpower alone. What's wrong with me? The sudden urge to see what, exactly, had happened to August's room was overwhelming. But Noah swallowed it. There was no point clinging to the past. Even if that was the main reason he had returned to his hometown in the first place. He heard footsteps coming up behind him. August's house, huh? Not anymore. You've gotten better at talking about it. About him, lately. Have I? You'd get furious before if anyone even said his name or mentioned his passing. I suppose I've come to accept it a little, this world without him. Noah sat down, and a moment later, Cain sat down next to him. Ooh, a CG, okay. I know it's hard. Loss is so impossibly hard. Noah found himself leaning over towards Cain without even noticing what he was doing. It was a natural thing to depend on Cain. He was always there. He would never leave him or betray him. He was a stone wall that couldn't be weathered. He was an unmoving force, a great mountain rooted so firmly in reality that no wave, no quake, could budge him. That's how Noah pictured Cain, a perfectly solid, firm person that you could lean on no matter how hard things got. Noah hadn't wanted to lean on him in years. He didn't even want to see Cain. But why not? They were friends, the best of friends. They knew each other long, long before August came into the picture. So why was it hard to look at him? Was it guilt? Could it be fear of being left behind by him, too? Noah wasn't sure. Do you remember that time I turned up here in the middle of the night? Of course I do. It was raining so hard and you were drenched. Sorry about that, you know. Turning up like that, then disappearing. I was really worried about you back then. I guess that's how you usually feel about me, huh? You do make me worry. A lot. Sorry. Yeah, well, I'm the mom friend for a reason. The way he said mom friend sounded almost sad. Almost bitter. But that had to be Noah's imagination, right? After all, Cain would be the first to let anyone and everyone know how much of a mom friend he was. Does it ever get hard? You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific there. To have everyone rely on you, but no one to rely on yourself. Where's this coming from? Just thinking about it. You're the most dependable person I know, so it has to be hard, being that dependable. I like taking care of people. You know that. But don't you ever need taken care of? Cain fell silent. He leaned back slightly, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. His eyes were trained on the sky outside, and Noah found himself watching his eyelashes, the curve of his lip, as he spoke. Well, I'm fine, Noah. There's nothing you have to worry about. It's not an answer. No, I guess it's not. It can be hard Sometimes I try too hard and I make things worse. Seeing the disappointment in their eyes, knowing they relied on me and I screwed up. Like with my mom. Noah frowned. Your mother was never disappointed in you. She blamed me for her divorce. I'd never seen her so... angry isn't the word. More like... lost. She wasn't herself then, but she still said words to me I'll never forget. And then there's you. A long time ago you promised me you weren't going anywhere. And then you left. Just like that. Even when I chased after you, you spent years pushing me away. All I could do was wonder if I was doing the right thing. I'm... sorry isn't enough, is it? But what else can I say? It's fine. Like I said to you, I'm fine. I'm the same flashy show-off I've always been. Noah didn't miss the strain in his voice, the thickness in his words. Even Cain, even he had the capability to lie. That was something Noah knew, of course, but he hadn't expected. You can tell me when you're struggling. I'm not very good at looking after people. I'm a bit of a fucking mess, but I can still listen, even if I can't help. You know I can't do that. I'm your guardian angel, after all. How disappointing would it be if I needed you to rescue me? His words were in jest, but Cain seemed drained of energy. He was probably too tired to act as the ever-cheerful support beam that he always did. Noah frowned to himself. Being serious right now. I know I'm not dependable like you. I know I'm a piece of shit that's been pushing you away for so many years. But I want to be there for you too. So, please. Well, I'll try. Is being back here making you nostalgic or something? You're awfully, well, caring tonight. Noah's teeth ground against each other slightly. I've had a lot of time to think lately, which is funny because my world has suddenly gotten so busy. You would think all those years spent by myself in my apartment would have given me time to think, but no. You were there for me as a child, and you were there for me as an adult. So the least I can do now is pay back the favor. To his surprise, Cain laughed, lightly. You don't owe me any favors. I've never done anything I've done for you with that in mind. That might even be worse. Anyway, it means a lot that you care like this. We really should be getting some sleep, though, before things get too sappy between us, huh? Yeah, you've probably got a point. Don't stay up too late, okay? Yeah. Good night, Noah. He smiled back, softly. Night. Cain got up first, and Noah turned back over his shoulder to look at the brunette. Cain closed his bedroom door behind him, leaving Noah alone in his room. He sighed heavily to himself. The past. It was a difficult thing. Though he had found himself talking about it, thinking about it, reliving it, it was still hard to accept. Hard to accept that tomorrow he wouldn't wake up, meet up with his two bestest friends in the entire world, and walk down that mountain, once again, to school. Noah stared back at the window in the house next to his. Those dark curtains obscured everything beyond. What was happening in there right now? And what about that world 10 years from now, or 30? No matter how many times he tried to picture it, he couldn't. This place, it was so ingrained in the Noah of yesterday that he couldn't imagine it any other way. Will anyone remember me tomorrow? His voice echoed lightly in the night air. Memories and dreams are similar like that, fleeting. Good things and bad, they all fade away as we grow and change and move on. The thought should have been comforting, but instead, Noah felt a lump growing in his throat. The memories and the moments, they slipped through his fingers like water. His life ebbed away one day after the other. Time didn't stop for anybody. He was slipping into a new life, while the old one was swept away like dust on the wind. And that felt terrible. Standing, he closed the window and fell back onto his bed, staring at the ceiling. That familiar, flat, white ceiling. I wonder if my mom missed me. His eyelids felt awfully heavy all of a sudden. Darkness enveloped him. Sleep overtook him. All right, and with Noah falling asleep, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. I will note that he is not going to enter another dream. He's falling asleep like normal, so next episode we're not going to get a dream episode, because in this game there's a distinction between him just falling asleep and him having a dream. It's not like that, it's very normal, but with him falling asleep, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. So, thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one for some more Dreambound.